Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Today, we bask in the light of mustachioed greatness. Hi, this is Daniel Segura, host of the Mustachioed Podcastio. You like mustaches? You like movies? You like sexy chinganos? Well, the Podcastio is the place for you. We are talking legendary mustaches from Charles Bronson to the Great Burt Reynolds to the OG Ice-T. Find the Mustachioed Podcastio anywhere you listen to podcasts. That is M-O-U-S-T-Ashioed Podcastio.
Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listers, a podcast about murder.
And Elyse.
And we're brought to you by the Podmoth Podcasting Network. They're amazing. They got lots of good podcasts. Check them all out. And this is part two of, what was it?
Satanic occult ritual
and occult
murders.
Sorry, we've done a couple similar, and I keep like fucking up the title of what it is. So,
well, we did The Devil Made Us Do It, but that's different because that's people blaming murders on the devil. But this is people doing ritual murders
for the devil.
For the devil, and they're like open about it. They're like, yeah, this was great that I did that.
It's different. Yeah, it's definitely different. Yeah. So this is part two. Mm-hmm. It's late in the evening because I just got home from work because it takes me 4 hours to get home. So if I'm a little out of it, fuck LA. It sucks because I actually really like being at work, but the amount of hours that I work and then like having a child and like it's just not possible to also do the commute. But whenever I'm there, I'm like stoked to see everybody. So it's good that I go in.
It's just the getting there part that's tough.
Yeah, it is. Getting home is worse by a lot.
Right.
But anyway,
I mean, it shouldn't take so long if there was like no other people, but LA has too many people and too many cars. So
don't move here. We love you. Stay put. Or you can move elsewhere. Just don't move here.
Yeah.
Trust me, everybody's better if you don't.
Or if you are in LA, consider leaving. So less people would be great.
I left and then I came back because I was like, no, this is terrible. So I understand why people stay. I understand why people come, but it's a lot. Anyway, I'm sure that was really interesting for everyone. So if you'd like to, we just posted Big Ed on Patreon.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, it was a fun one. It was over an hour. I did like almost an hour and a half on Mr. Kemper. If you'd like to join us and listen to that and other stuff on our Patreon, you can do that. It's patreon.com/twistedlisters. If you would like to join us on TikTok, it's just @twistedlisters. I don't know why I've been having such a hard time making TikToks. I just like can't get myself to do it.
Well, it's a lot of time, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it does for like such a short clip. It's a lot of work. But we have a lot of content on there if you guys want to watch. If you'd like to join us on Instagram, you can do that at
Twisted Listers PCast.
If you'd like to check out our website, you can do that at
twistedlisterspod.com.
And if you'd like to send us an email with case suggestions, which we are getting through slowly but surely, you can do that at
twistedlisterspod@gmail.com.
Okay, let's get into it, eh?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right.
I have a real beefy, stinky, savory case.
Ooh, okay.
It's definitely one on the top, like 5 grossest things I've ever covered for the podcast. This is the case of Pazuzu Algarad.
Okay.
You'll remember this from when I originally covered it, but very few people have heard it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This happened in Winston-Salem, specifically the small town of Clemens, North Carolina in 2009. Pazuzu here was born John Alexander Lawson in San Francisco on August 12th, 1978. And I just want to note that him being a Leo tracks.
He's also not that old. It's weird that he wasn't even that old when this happened.
No, not
pretty
that
young. Yeah.
In 2002, he legally changed his name to Pazuzu, a reference to the demon in my favorite horror movie of all time, The Exorcist.
Fuck yeah, but also that's stupid. But also that's a great movie. But like
movie, but fuck him. the demon is not named in the movie, but it's like the face that flashes in, it's the demon that's possessing her. So it's kind of a horror nerd fact to know that.
Right.
He would later make up a lot about his background. He would say he was from Iraq. He wasn't. He's a white guy.
That's weird. Wouldn't people be like, probably not? I don't know.
I
mean, guess you can be from anywhere these days.
The Iraq thing might have been a nod. The Iraq thing might have been a nod to Pazuzu, because that's where Pazuzu's from.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Or like there's a scene in the beginning of the movie, remember, where he's like doing archaeology and the demon sculpture.
Oh, right. Okay. So this guy's just like a super dork obsessed with this shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in reality, he had a fairly normal upbringing. His only trauma to speak of is basically that his parents got divorced and his dad moved far away. So he had kind of an absent dad. His mom said he did struggle with a lot of mental issues throughout his young life. At various times, he was diagnosed with different things, including agoraphobia, schizophrenia, and being psychotic. So there's some stuff happening up in his brain.
Yeah.
For sure. At some point, he started drinking very early on. He started drinking and using drugs, hard drugs. So like he's just off to a really intense start.
Yeah.
At some point, he and his mom relocate to Winston-Salem, where they get a house, and he creates this sort of satanic black metal scene around him, and he starts to create like a cult following around him centering at his house.
Okay.
In addition to changing his name, Pazuzu went out of his way to make himself look like kind of a cartoon of what people would, like Midwestern conservative people might fear when they think of a Satanist, like the most ridiculous looking person.
Okay. So he's like so this guy's all about like playing up like the stereotypes and like kind of like the theatrical side of it, it sounds like.
Very much. Yeah, he's a Leo.
Okay.
While he's on
once again, he's a Leo.
Loves the drama theater. While he's on meth, he files all his teeth to points.
Oh my God. Ugh. I remember the feeling in my mouth when we did this like a year ago. Yep. You said that. It felt the same this time. My teeth actually like hurt. Like just even thinking about it. Sorry. It's so weird how I'm having such like a visceral reaction to
the filing. Yeah.
He
gets a bunch of intense tattoos, including many on his face, and they are not of high quality.
That's shocking.
Mm-hmm. He shaves off his eyebrows, and just overall, it's a look. It's a strong look. It's a choice that he's making.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Winston-Salem is also heavily Christian and conservative plays into this. He's trying to like shock people, and he knows they probably will be shocked, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would be quite different if he looked like that in San Francisco, where people wouldn't bat an eye. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, sure." Like,
oh my God, nobody would give one fuck. Like,
no, or LA
or LA. I'm just like, I fucking deal with people with like multiple face tattoos all the time, and I'm just like, whatever. Like, what do you need? Like, how can I help you? Like, this is really not a thing here.
But they're in a little small town, he knows it's going to be like, ooh, I'm edgy, right?
Of course.
So he also goes through a phase cosplaying as being Islamic and specifically right after 9/11, when people are very Islamophobic. So he's clearly just a troll who's trying to get off on upsetting people. And just FYI, and I'm glad many articles say this, you definitely cannot be both satanic and Islamic. Those are extremely contradictory.
Yeah, people should have probably just called bullshit there and been like,
of those things.
Not only are you neither of those things, but you're obviously fucking stupid and you don't know anything about either of those things to be like trying to. Yeah, that's terrible.
It is actually Islamophobic to pretend to be Islamic and also to bastardize it because it is nothing to do with Satan. And
to like kind of think that it does is like,
yeah, and also to kind of be like, ooh, isn't Islam like spooky and evil? It's like, oh no.
Like, no, it's actually okay.
It's a normal religion. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like anything else.
Yeah, he's really annoying. And so here's what's going on at Pazuzu's satanic cult pad, where he and his many friends and followers do many activities. Here's what they do. Here's a list. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of drugs, including heroin, meth. They play super, super loud black metal at all times. They are doing a lot of fighting. They do very frequent animal sacrifices.
Oh, God. That's terrible.
They drink the blood of animals. They have orgies. They cut themselves and drink each other's blood. They cut each other. They smash bottles and they break things in general. There's a lot of dogs who unfortunately are in this house, and they're fine, but they do pee and poop everywhere. The house is covered in human and animal excrement and pee everywhere. And people, let me just say straight up, this house smells really bad.
Yeah.
No one's cleaning. There is not a sponge. There is not a soap in this house. There is absolutely no cleaning substance.
It sounds like they were, do you know that band, the Murder Junkies? Like, it just sounds like they're all that band. Like, it's just that band in a house. I don't know if anybody knows who that is.
I don't know
but
that
like
band, but...
the drummer he would play drums nude, and at the end of the show, he'd stick the drumsticks up his ass, and then when he pulled them out, like half the time, he'd shit on the stage.
Oh god.
Yeah. So it sounds very aligned with like this cult, honestly. Sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, that tracks. So there's also a ton of heavy weaponry that is stored in the dishwasher.
Okay.
There's also a ton of writing on the wall and kind of things collaged to the wall. There's also just piles and piles of garbage. There's like, they seem to have like a room that was the trash room because it's like halfway filled up, like up the wall, just solid with a brick of trash, you know, like in hoarders, A&E hoarders.
Yeah.
The hallway, like many of the rooms, you're walking on trash. Like there's no more floor.
That's so gross because you know what, like, or you don't know what's underneath that top layer, but it's not fucking good.
No, yeah, there's layers and layers, and the house is filthy. Like, there's, spoiler alert, there's a video later which I'll talk about, but the house is caked in filth. Like, you can see it, and like this garbage everywhere. Yeah, it's really repulsive. So like, great place for an orgy, right?
Yeah, like nothing turns me on like fucking hoarder filth.
And none of these people are bathing. That's like a really cool hot trend here in this satanic cult house, is not bathing.
No, thank you.
People compare him to Charles Manson, which honestly is apt in some ways, particularly because he has a group of young female followers whom he sleeps with, and he calls them his fiancés. And he gets very grandiose in having kind of power over these women who are, of course, very young and vulnerable, and like he's, I'm sure, preying on them because of that.
They probably came from like bad backgrounds, and so they just need, yeah, that's fucked up.
Also, in this whole scene I just described, his mom lives there, so let's not forget that his mom is there.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah,
she's just like a part of it. She's just there. Yeah, like, oh god.
I imagine, like, she also apparently got him animals to sacrifice and animal blood to drink, which I guess at this point she's like an enabler, but she might have also been scared of her son, because I'm pretty sure she was. Yeah, she definitely was, actually.
But also, like, it just feels like she could leave. I don't know. Like, just go somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah, but she's definitely like an enabler who's just supporting him no matter what.
Right.
And letting him behave like this.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's really crazy to remember that his mom's there. Okay.
Yeah.
In 2000, like, this isn't even his house. It's his mom's house.
Right.
In 2009, a guy called Josh Wetzler disappears. He's actually only reported missing 7 months later. Police, like, shortly after he disappears, police found his car abandoned, but they don't tell anyone about it.
Right.
So his friends and family and his, like, estranged ex-wife, they, like, are just like, oh, I guess we're not hearing from Josh, but they don't have any reason to think foul play happened.
Right.
Josh was a felon because it's fucking stupid. He shouldn't have been. He had one charge for... Okay, well, let me just get back to that. So he was a drug felon, so police don't look into it because of that, right?
Right. They're like, we don't care.
He did drugs, so we don't care.
Yeah. Good job, cops.
So Josh was a hoof trimmer for horses, like, he made their little horseshoes or whatever the fuck. And he had a farm with his ex-wife, and he was doing really well in life, but it was foreclosed, and they kind of came on financial hard times, so he started selling drugs. And he had one conviction for buying mushrooms, but because it was through the mail, it was a felony, and that ruined his, like, life, basically, and his career.
That's so stupid.
It's so dumb. So because of that, he was unable to work anymore and couldn't get a job because of the felony, of course, and just had to continue selling drugs because he didn't know what else to do.
Isn't that so insane how, like, these laws are meant to, like, uphold and it's like, you literally ruined this man's life. Like, he was not this way. He was, like, had a straight and narrow kind of job.
Yeah.
And you fucking ruined his life, leaving him, I mean, with no other options.
Yeah. No, and it's insane, obviously, like, the fact that we don't give people apartments or jobs because of felonies is on purpose, and it's to make people go back to jail.
Yeah, so we have free prison labor.
Exactly. Yes.
Disgusting.
So poor Josh is in this place in life, but he was a beloved family man and friend. He had a baby at the time, a son, and everyone had really great things to say about him. He was just in a hard spot in life. And there's a Facebook group actually still active today with pictures of him with his son, his friends, his family. And they have active updates of his son, who is now like 13.
Oh, man.
Super sad.
It's good that people care enough to, like, you know, keep that alive.
Yeah, for sure. But here's what happened to Josh. It's fucking horrific. So 1,000 trigger warnings. Obviously, he came to know our friend Pazuzu here, unfortunately. And it's thought he may have been asked or may have been offered a place to stay or just was there partying. He knew him through Josh selling weed. So there's probably just a drug connection, right?
Right.
However this started, because Pazuzu's fucking awful, is how it started. Josh was kept in the basement of the house for days.
Like a captive.
Yes. Where he was starved, literally for days. They then eventually killed him torturously by cutting his limbs off.
While he was alive?
Yeah. And his penis off.
God damn.
They then buried him in pieces in the yard. And the whole time, by the way, he was locked in the basement. There was parties raging upstairs. And several witnesses report this, that Pazuzu was laughing and saying, oh, there's a guy in the basement. I'm keeping this guy in the basement. He tells one person, if someone comes out of the basement, stop them. But no one takes him seriously, according to them at least, because Pazuzu is constantly bragging about horrific shit he did. And everyone's like, no. So he doesn't keep this murder a secret afterwards. Pazuzu tells several people, he brags about it, as does one of Pazuzu's fiancées, Crystal Matlock, who helped bury Josh.
Oh, I remember her. Yeah.
Yes. And there's actually tons of tips that come in reporting, I think Pazuzu has a man buried in his backyard, to the cops, or like tips saying, hey, Pazuzu's talking about how he killed a guy. So people do come forward, to their credit. It's not
like enough people too.
Yeah.
Like this should have been looked into. Like
it's not like, oh, no one said anything. It's like, no, a bunch of people did report it. And the police do basically nothing. There's one time where, because of all these tips, they do go over, and I shit you not, they search the house.
It's disgusting.
They say they find nothing.
Okay.
When I circle back to the next search, it's going to be baffling that they missed what they missed.
Right. Well, because they didn't care. They might as well have gone in with blindfolds on. If they even went in the house, they could have just lied.
Yeah, who knows? It's very suspicious.
Right.
So 2010, that was 2009. From 2010 to 2011, there's a whole slew of different domestic assault charges for Pazuzu and other people partying in the house. The house is just like charge, crime, including one time where Pazuzu is charged for strangling his mom. He's physically abusive to her as well. His mom drops the charges, I'm sure out of fear of her son.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In 2010, also at Pazuzu's crash pad, a man named Nicholas Ritzy, well, sorry, not at the pad, take that back. Starting from this pad, Pazuzu and a guy named Nicholas Ritzy also go and pick up Joseph Chandler, a young black man who was also blind.
Oh, wow.
They picked him up from a store, and they probably targeted him for this purpose, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They then drove to a nearby river where they shot him in the head.
And killed him.
Yep. Just for the sake of it. I want to also say here that Pazuzu really liked to pressure other people to kill people. And there's several accounts from people who partied at the house saying that Pazuzu tried to get them to kill someone randomly, and they were like, no, I'm just doing meth, or like, I'm just partying, you know?
Yeah, like, I like meth, I don't like murder, but that's very Manson-y.
Yes, it's very Manson-y. So he was trying to do that and like flex his kind of cult leader power, right? Mm-hmm. And also as a way to not get his hands as dirty, right? Just like Manson. For murdering Joseph Chandler, Nicholas Ritzy, the guy who shot him, got 13 months for involuntary manslaughter.
What's involuntary about that? Like, what the fuck?
Because he claimed it was an accident.
It was an accident. We drove him out to a fucking
to a field
and shot him in the back of the head. Like, that doesn't sound right to me.
The racist judge is just like, yes, I believe that it was an accident, fine gentleman.
Yeah. He was black and blind, so who cares? Like,
exactly. Pazuzu was charged as an accessory after the fact. He got a suspended sentence and got out. So Pazuzu also gets charged, including with like many things. And everyone's like, good day to you, fine sir, you know.
Part of me, I absolutely hate it, but part of me loves being able to just like ruthlessly shame these worthless pieces of shit for allowing this type of thing to go on because they're like racist and sexist and they're just like so opposed to just doing their fucking jobs in any sort of like semblance of like the way you're supposed to is like truly out of fucking control.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's insane. The psych eval for Pazuzu notes that he only bathes once a year. According to him.
Is it like on a special day? He's got like a bathing day?
Actually, yeah, I think he had like a special blood sacrifice ritual where that's when he would bathe to do the sacrifices. Yeah. So they also in the psych evals point out that he's suffering from probably like a bunch of disorders, including schizoid personality disorder. But anyway, good day to you, sir. Have fun. So that was 2010. Okay.
Right.
And again, multiple tips keep coming in that there's dead people in this house.
Right.
Guess what year we're going to jump to next? 2014.
Jesus fucking Christ. 4 years.
4 years later.
How does he not have like a staph infection at any point? I just feel like
gout. Fucking
holy ball motherfucker. Like, so disgusting.
So gross, dude. Oh yeah, there was like flesh-eating bacteria in this house.
Oh, for sure. Oh my God.
So they finally search the house after 1,000 more tips come in. And this is on camera. You can go watch it on YouTube. I recommend it, Cindy, after this.
Okay.
In the initial approach, there's footage of officers saying, this is exactly how they say it. They're like, is that smell? They're like 20 feet out from the house. Yeah. And they're like, is that smell just from the house? They're like shocked. They're like, is what we're smelling the house? I can't believe it because it smells so nasty. Like their poor neighbors too probably smell it all the time.
Oh God, I can't believe they didn't call and complain, to be honest.
Oh, they did.
They did. Okay.
No, 4,000 complaints and tips, and it takes 4 years for this to happen. Right.
Fucking go cops. Your tax dollars at work.
And again, the walkthrough through the house is so fucking nasty. Like I already described it, but there's molded ceilings, the trash, there's animal carcasses everywhere.
That's insane.
It's extremely nasty. And in the yard, there's several blue tarps and big dirt mounds over them. Right. And very clear areas of disturbed mounds of dirt. So it's like,
these look like graves.
Yeah, and fucking they are. So they dig up the yard with a forensic team and they find, surprise, Josh's body.
There you go.
And a second body.
Oh, shit.
That of Tommy Welch, who had disappeared in 2009, 3 months after Josh. An autopsy actually showed that he was shot in the back of the head.
Was it accidental? Did they get involuntary manslaughter?
It certainly was not. And he was actually killed by fiance Amber Birch.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
She and Pazuzu had picked him up and he had partied at the house. And that night she had shot him with a rifle. And like I said, I think this might have been another time where he strongly encouraged someone to do this.
I was going to say, I'm sure it was his bidding.
Yes. Pazuzu was arrested, obviously, and charged with first-degree murder. Fiance Amber Birch gets charged with first-degree murder as well, because she did that.
Yeah.
She ultimately pled guilty to second degree. In 2017, she was sentenced to 30 to 39 years in prison.
It's pretty fucking good. That's hefty.
Yeah. Crystal Matlock was also charged with accessory after the fact for helping to dispose of Josh.
Mm-hmm.
And Crystal, by the way, like it's all the girls, Amber and Crystal, are like really sad stories of these vulnerable girls who actually like join up at the house when they're like 18, right out of high school. So it's like very sad.
Yeah, it's shitty.
Yeah. The house was later demolished and the lot was sold. It's like a big empty lot on the murder map. You can go see that for Patreons. Shit. Yeah, they probably had to do like some saging and some fucking Febreze.
Yeah, Jesus.
Get the juju out of there. Yeah. And you can kind of still see the grass where the house was. There's like, I think a little memorial like placard. But what happened to Pazuzu? On October 28th, 2015, shortly after being in custody, he was found dead in his cell of suicide.
How do you do it?
Well, this is disputed. So whether this was a suicide or something else is discussed on the internet. It's a little suspicious because initially police don't give like very much information about how he died or like whether or not he had been placed on suicide watch. So there's no like context. I did see an autopsy report that was released later at some point where it says supposedly that he bit into his own arm.
Oh, and like got his like artery or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fucking hardcore.
So, I mean, knowing Pazuzu, maybe.
Yeah.
But again, people have cast suspicion on that. And that's the case of Pazuzu. I'm going to end with one quote here, since we're doing Satanic Week, where a legit Satanic Temple representative responded to Pazuzu's crimes with a very cool statement. And he said that this is just a really messed up dude. Whatever he was doing was not Satanism.
Right.
It was his own thing. And this guy said, quote, "Real Satanists place emphasis on empathy and compassion. We strive for justice, seeking knowledge and using science to guide our beliefs and not the other way around. General enlightenment values and kindness."
So basically this guy's a fucking phony dipshit who based his personality on movies.
Yeah, he based his personality on what he thought would be shocking to people and edgy. And he's really lame. He's like a hot topic as a person.
Yeah, he is.
You know?
He's the embodiment of that.
But I just want to end with that, because no shame on real Satanists, and they're actually pretty chill, like, people. And they're usually kind of like nerds, honestly.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
yeah. Wow. God, I forgot how much I hated that whole thing. Ugh, sorry.
Yeah, both of my cases this week were very aromatic.
Very aromatic. And oof. God, my teeth hurt just thinking about that shit.
Filing of the teeth, yeah.
Ugh. So first I have to apologize if you guys hear a car alarm going off in the background. There's nothing I can do about that.
I can't hear it.
Oh, I'm so glad. Hopefully my idiot neighbor stops soon. All right, well, I'm going to do a really fucked up case. And it ties into our topic for next week, which is interesting. As I was researching it, I was like, holy shit, like this is perfect for next week. But we're doing it this week, so here it is.
There we go, segue.
Yes, this is the murder of Elyse Pahler. I've also heard her called Pahler, but I believe it's Pahler. I've heard that one. I think it's Pahler.
Yeah.
Too. Pahler. Elyse was a 15-year-old girl at the time that she was murdered, which is pretty fucking tragic. She was born and raised in Arroyo Grande, California, which is, you know where that is, right?
Yes, I do.
It's like San Luis Obispo County. It's a little bit like southeast of Pismo Beach.
Mm-hmm. So when you're doing the drive up the 101 from between LA and San Francisco, you go through it.
You do. Yeah. And Napomo's right there as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually where she was murdered, and we'll talk about that.
The really cute small town kind of vibe.
Yes, very much. And there's lots of orchards and trees, and it's very,
scenic.
Yeah, but weirdly, Arroyo Grande, this takes place in 1995. She was born in 1980. And in 1995, there was like a rash of violent crime.
Oh, weird.
Grande. Yeah, fucking nuts. And I'll talk more about it, but tons of violent, I think there was something like 1 out of every 140 people were victims of violent crime in 1995 in Arroyo Grande.
That's so random. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it was 14,000 people, and there was a few hundred or something. I don't know.
Wow.
Elyse came from, I don't know. Listen, I don't ever want to speak ill of the dead, especially victims. And I also don't want to speak ill of the dead's family, but I'm not a huge fan of her parents. I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
I'm just going to put it out there, and it'll come. There will be context for this.
I know why, but I'm not going to say.
Yeah, but I'm not a huge fan of theirs, and I think that a lot of the way that they kind of raised her may have had, and I'm not blaming the kids rebel. Yeah. But I feel like the way her parents were a little over the top with her, and so her rebellion was in direct response to their parenting style. So at least she was the oldest of, I think, 4 children. And her parents were super religious. They were a bit overprotective. And Elyse seemed to be very naive, a little immature in some ways. I think she was really really sheltered a lot for most of her life, which I totally get that. I get wanting to protect your kids from things, but I feel like a lot of what she was protected from kind of made her not really aware of the realities of the world in a way.
Yeah.
So when Elyse was 14, she was I think she was in high school at that point, and she got suspended for 5 days for being visibly intoxicated at school.
Okay.
Now, they think that it was weed and alcohol. So super standard 14-year-old stuff.
Yeah, not crazy.
No, I used to go to school high constantly.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. I just never got caught because I would drink at school occasionally, but not often. And also just don't get caught. Like, be cool, be chill.
Yeah, I mean, not all 14-year-olds are as chill as you, Cindy.
Well, I mean, it's not chill to be doing that shit, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
And that's the thing, is I think she was like a really sheltered, good girl, and so she was just like starting to kind of experiment a little bit and like kind of, now there's a lot of back and forth about who she was, how many friends she had. Some people, I feel like, as filler for their, podcasts or stories, they're like, oh, she was popular, she was this, she was that, but I don't think she was. I think she was almost like a little bit of an outcast, didn't have a lot of friends, and a lot of that came from like her weird family life, and so she was like really trying to like, break away from her parents.
Yeah.
So she gets caught in being intoxicated, and her parents do exactly what I think is absolute overkill. They send her to rehab.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah, for smoking weed and drinking at 14. Like,
just to have a talk about it. I mean, like,
right?
I guess there's a point at which rehab could be justified, but maybe not after the first offense.
Yeah, for your 14-year-old who's like clearly just like, rebelling against you, probably overreacting is not the thing to do.
For sure.
So while she was in rehab, she met, I think it was Jacob Delashma, who was also in rehab. But Jacob, who I believe was also 15 or was 15 at the time, so she was 14 and he was 15, he was in there for like meth and like heavy alcohol use. So he was the kind of kid that it's like, okay, it makes sense for you to be in there.
Yeah, well, and meth requires rehab, obviously,
yes,
like in a very serious way.
Yeah, so she goes there, like still in her rebellious phase, still not wanting to listen to her parents, and she meets people who are going to take her right through that gateway.
Oh, that's another reason not to do that. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't think that she ever actually did heavier drugs or anything, but I know that she got really into smoking weed. Sending her to this place did nothing to deter her from continuing down this path.
No.
So now she knows this guy, Jacob Delashman. I think he had been either suspended or expelled from school, but they did previously go to school together. There's also Joseph Fiorella, who's a year younger. So he's 13 and then turns 14 when this story actually takes place. And then there's Royce Casey, who was either 16 or 17 at the time this happened. They were all, like, these boys were all friends. And they were in a band together. And they were like burnouts, but they were like metalhead burnouts. And they were in a band together called Hatred.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can tell these kids are...
I'm shocked and offended. I'm clutching my pearls.
Right. And apparently everybody said that they were kind of basing their band on Slayer. And they were really, really into Slayer. And they were like really influenced by Slayer. Joseph Fiorella, more than anybody else. He was like really... like would quote the lyrics, and they were like, they took everything very seriously. So these guys,
I just want to say right here that Slayer is one of my and my husband's, both of our favorite bands of all time.
Yeah. So you can obviously listen to Slayer and not be these people, right?
No, they're an incredible fucking band. So.
Right. And these guys had another friend named Travis Williams, and he wasn't in their band, but he hung out with them a lot, and he was like also kind of like a troublemaker kid. And at some point in like, I don't know, May of 1995, these kids start becoming friends with Elyse. And Elyse was stoked because, again, I don't think she had a lot of friends. I think she was trying to like figure shit out. She likes smoking weed. These guys, like I said, they're burnouts. They're big into meth. They're big into weed. They're big into drinking. They're just kind of like dropout losers. And for whatever reason, that's what she's looking for, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I'm not exactly sure how they all start hanging out. I think it's just one of those things where you keep running into each other. Obviously, the little rehab stint was helpful. But they all become like, quote unquote, friends. These boys, however, and Elyse doesn't know this because, like I said, like she comes from like a church-going family. She's religious.
Yeah.
These boys are all Satan worshipers. But they like kind of worship Satan through Slayer in a way. It's like a really convoluted and stupid fucking thing, but basically,
which is also not really a satanic band.
No,
if you're gonna look like, there are satanic metal bands, but that's not really it.
No, it's not. It's no. It's just ridiculous. This whole story, the whole premise, it's like the dumbest reason to kill somebody ever. This could have been on that list too. Dumbest reasons to kill. Like this is really up there
for sure.
Pardon me. So but they're all hanging out. Elyse doesn't know that the entire time they're hanging out with her, and the reason they started hanging out with her is because they are planning to murder her in a sacrifice to Satan.
The whole time.
The whole time. The only reason that they befriended her is for this purpose. So these guys, at this point, Travis is still included kind of in this group of friends, and they decide, they're basically just trying to figure out how to do it. So one day they're all hanging out. It's like the evening, and they make Travis, they buy a hunting knife. It's like got like a bone handle or an antler handle, like a deer antler handle, like hunting knife. And they give it to Travis, and they're all hanging out outside. When you're a stoner in that age, like you go out into like the forest, you go like down by the water or wherever you can to like smoke weed or whatever, right? So they're hanging out, and they make him pretend that he falls and like hurts himself. They make him pretend that he falls, right? And they're like, Elyse, go help him, go down there. And she goes down to like help him out. And she gets down there, and they can see them because they're kind of like above them over a cliff.
Yeah.
And they see that Travis has the knife in his hand. Yeah. And so Jacob and Joseph start chanting, do it, like do it, like stab her. And Travis later said, because he does get interviewed, even though he wasn't really involved, he's like, I just was too scared. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't kill her.
He also probably had like maybe an iota of conscience for a second. Or...
Oh no, don't worry, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay. I was giving him too much credit.
Absolutely too much credit.
Okay.
So for whatever reason, I think again, she's trying to find herself. She doesn't have a lot of self-worth at this point. She just wants these boys to like her. She doesn't tell anybody about this, and she doesn't take this seriously either. And likewise, all their friends, because again, these kids aren't like really in school. Like Royce was actually like the oldest one. He was at a different school, and he was still in school. He was kind of had his shit the most together. But Jacob and Joseph, they're like not even really in school because they're so fucking out of control at 14 and 15 years old. But they're telling friends, and they're telling people like, we're going to kill somebody and we're going to sacrifice them for Satan. And people are like, yeah, fuck off, whatever. Like, we don't believe you, right?
Yeah.
So time goes on. And Elyse, she kind of kept up this facade with her family. Like she was a super talented seamstress, and she was actually like a pattern maker.
Oh,
like,
wow.
That is like a fucking skill to have.
That's
like
very hard. Yeah, I couldn't do that.
It's super hard. And they said she could do it like just by eyesight. Like she didn't even have to like measure things to make it like exactly. It was insane, the level of talent that she had, especially at this age. And so she was like creative. I think she played, sports. But she just kind of fell off for some reason. This shit appealed to her. So on July 21st, 1995, she goes over to her aunt's house, and they do some pattern making, and they do some sewing, and they make some clothing because Elyse made a lot of her own clothing.
That's cool.
It is cool. And they're like hanging out, and they're doing their thing. And then Elyse leaves. She goes home, and she's watching a movie with her parents. She gets a phone call and hangs up, and then she gets another phone call. It's like 9:15 or so kind of late at night. Her parents are like, why is our 15-year-old daughter getting phone calls? Like, what the hell's going on, right? About 10 minutes later, she's like, I'm really tired. I'm going to go to bed. She says, I love you to both of her parents. She's like, I love you. See you in the morning. Goes into her room. It took, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months for her body to be found.
What? She just went to bed, though.
No, she did not. She went to bed, quote unquote, went into her room, stuffed a bunch of pillows under her blanket.
Classic.
And she had French doors in her room, which so that led out to outside.
So she didn't have to go through a window. Yeah.
No, she didn't even have to crawl out of anything. She opened a door and walked out to freedom.
Don't give your teens a door to the outside.
No. Later, her dad was like, I had this feeling. I knew she was lying. I don't know why I didn't go check on her. Just blaming himself. But the thing is, they'd already attempted to kill her once. If it didn't happen that night, this was something they were trying. They were trying. They were going to do this.
My mom put bells on all the door handles in my house. So if honestly, I touched the doorknob, it would be like, bing, bing, bing.
My parents, I'd be like, hey, I'm going out till 3 a.m. with my boyfriend. I'm 14. I'm going to leave barefoot. I don't have a cell phone. I'll see you later. And they'd be like, sweet. And that was it.
Oh, great.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think my dad wasn't. I don't know. I think they were both culpable in that. They both knew. Anyway, so she sneaks out. And the phone calls she was getting were Jacob and Joseph. And she sneaks out and she meets up with Jacob and Joseph and Royce. And basically what they said is like, hey, well, let's go get you high. We're going to go get high. We're going to go out to this eucalyptus field in Nipomo. We're going to drink. We're going to hang out, whatever. And she's like, yeah, I'm fucking
That's what she's signing up for.
Yeah. And Nipomo, this eucalyptus orchard was less than a quarter mile from her house. That's how close it was.
Ugh.
So they go out to this orchard. And by the way, you know how we were talking about Travis and how he couldn't kill her and maybe it was a crisis of conscience? No.
Okay.
Part of the spate of violent crime was Travis and a friend of his like robbing an old lady in her 80s and shooting her in the head.
What? Did she die?
She died.
What?
Yeah.
So they've got like a murder spree.
Yeah.
Happening.
So he wasn't there to kill Elyse because he was already in custody. So it wasn't that he didn't want to be there. He'd have been there if he could. He sent his regrets from prison, from juvie. Anyway, they go out, they start smoking weed, and in the middle of it, just out of nowhere, Jacob grabs his belt, takes his own belt off, and wraps it around her neck and starts choking her. Now, I read somewhere that they had originally picked her up by her hair and like threw her on the ground while they were doing this. So like Joseph did that, and then Jacob put the belt around her neck. I don't know. But as he's choking her, she's like grabbing at it and freaking out. And Joseph grabs that same hunting knife because they've kept it, and he stabs her in the neck. And he stabs her like quite a few times, like 4 or 5 times in the neck. And then he hands the knife to Jacob, who stabs her in the neck. And then he hands it to Royce, who stabs her in the neck.
So they all have to like participate. There's kind of a ritual element to it.
Yes. But they're stabbing her like in the neck and also in her back. So it's kind of like not in her like jugular, you know, and so it's extraordinarily painful. It's taking a long time. They then drag her into the center, like kind of out in the open in the eucalyptus field, and she's still alive. And this is horrifying to me. She is crying out for her mother, and she's crying out to God to please make it stop.
So sad. She's just a little kid, really, you know, at the end of the day.
Yeah, she's just a girl trying to find herself, thinking these people are her friends.
Just trying to do a normal teenage rebellion moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
As she's dying, which, by the way, she did not die from these wounds. None of the wounds were fatal. She bled to death.
Oh, God.
So she was dying for
horrible.
A very long time.
Really torturous.
And it's not for sure if they did it as she was dying or once she was dead, but they did all rape her. And they tried to deny it, but after the fact, each one of them individually, separately bragged about raping her after she was dead. So,
disgusting people.
Yes. So the even more disgusting thing is that they went back to her body multiple times over the following weeks and raped her again. Her decaying body.
Oh, it's Ted Bundy time. That's Ted Bundy.
Very Ted Bundy. It
Literally.
is like peak Bundy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody could find Elyse. And people knew that she was missing. And her parents reported her missing. And the cops did what they do best. And they were like, well, given the fact that she went to rehab, she's been rebelling, she probably just ran away. Good luck with everything. We don't care about your 15-year-old daughter. That's essentially what these cops did. They marked her as a runaway, and despite her parents consistently being like, she is not a runaway, please fucking help us, they didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all 3 of these kids, Jacob, Joseph, and Royce, they each told at least 2 people that they fucking killed her in a ritualistic sacrifice to Satan. Nobody came forward and told anybody because nobody believed them, which is insane to me. It's like the girl is missing.
She's missing. Yeah.
They previously told you they were going to sacrifice someone.
Someone take it seriously, like at some point.
Yeah. So part of this comes out later, but the reason that they chose Elyse in particular was because she was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed virgin. And they felt that that would be a particular affront to God, which is super like racist also.
Yeah.
Like, light skin and blue eyes is like somehow more insulting to God than if you killed like somebody with darker skin. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, okay. It's like racist in your satanic ritual as well.
Yes,
that's great.
Yes, it's great. Perfect. Just add on a nice little layer there.
Perfect.
And later, after they were caught, what they said, the reason that they sacrificed her to Satan wasn't just like a random thing. They thought that it would get them to the next level of craziness, and then they would become better musicians and their band would get famous. So they sacrificed her to Satan so that they could get better in their band and be famous.
I mean, look, no. There's so many things wrong with that. And it's very embarrassing and it's pathetic and sad.
Yes. Do you know the movie, now that I've told you that, the movie that this inspired?
I haven't seen this movie, though.
You've not seen Jennifer's Body?
No.
Dude, you have to fucking see it, especially now that you know this story.
Yeah.
Because they basically Quentin Tarantino it, where like they get like the revenge after the murder.
Okay. Got it.
It's a fucking awesome movie, Diva. I'm like shocked you haven't seen it. Please watch it like ASAP.
It is shocking, and also because I've seen 99% of horror movies that have ever come out.
So. I cannot believe you haven't seen this one. It's so fucking classic.
No, I'll do it.
There's like TikTok like pieces from it, like the sound bites are like all over TikTok. Anyway,
I'll watch it.
It's a classic. So basically, if you guys haven't seen it, in Jennifer's Body, a band sacrifices a girl who they think is a virgin but is not, to Satan, so that their band will get famous, which is obviously taken directly from this story.
Yes.
So time goes on and nobody can find Elyse. Nobody has any idea where she is, what's going on. Royce, pretty immediately, I think probably in reaction to the horrific murder that he was involved with, he finds God. He becomes religious. And he is still somewhat hanging out with Jacob and Joseph, but not to the same degree.
Okay.
And I think his conscience is just weighing on him. He can't get this out of his mind. This is why he finds God. This is why he starts changing his life. And he's also afraid of Jacob and Joseph because they said she's not going to be the only one. She's the start. She's not the end.
Yeah, who's to say they wouldn't kill him to shut him up?
Well, that's the thing. And he was like, I'm afraid they're going to go for me next. And people said maybe it's because he was a virgin, but he's not a virgin anymore. He fucking raped a corpse. Like that. Oof. That counts. Like fuck you.
I guess. Yeah. I
mean, in terms of, if you're thinking about virginity in terms of like purity, he is the farthest thing. So
yeah, it's somehow does and doesn't count at the same time.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
I feel like in the eyes of Satan, he's definitely not a virgin because that is like a fucking evil thing to do.
I mean, let's not speak for Satan here. I don't want to drag him.
Oh my God. I'm just saying.
I'm trying to be pro Satanist here. I'm trying to like give him a
being pro Satanist is fine. I'm just saying in the eyes of these kids, like their interpretation of the way that Satan would see this is, But in any case, so he's afraid that he's going to get murdered by these two. So months and months and months go by, and he finally comes forward, and it was March of 96. So what is that? April, May, June, July. Yeah, so it's like 8 months later, he finally tells a priest. And the priest, they can't tell on you, apparently. Like, he can't. So he encouraged, which I didn't know because I'm not religious. He encourages Royce to go to the police. Yeah. And Royce does. And he goes to the police and he admits what happened. And he takes them to her body. And Elise's body is partially mummified. For whatever reason, the
climate
out there. Yeah. But they are able to see that she was stabbed to death. Also, I forgot to mention that as she was dying, she wasn't dying quickly enough, so they stomped on her throat and kicked her and beat her.
I hate that. I hate stomp. Anytime there's a stomping, it makes very viscerally upsetting.
It's really nasty, and she's still alive when they're doing this. And they're doing it to try to get her to die faster.
It's so torturous.
Completely insane. Yeah. So he basically comes clean. And so I am kind of feeling like I believe his story. And his story was like I don't know whether or not he said he raped her the night that she died. He said he didn't do it after at any point. He didn't come back and do it. I think he pretty quickly had a reaction to what happened and kind of started changing his life.
Yeah.
But he tells them everything that happened. The cops go and they arrest Joseph and they arrest Jacob, and they're both like, yeah, we did it. Like, just straight up, just yep, no denying it whatsoever. They all tell very similar stories.
How old are these kids again?
14, 15, and Royce was 17, I think, at the time that he confessed he was 17.
Because Joseph looks like he's 10.
Joseph was 14.
That's insane.
Yes. So they interview the kids. Royce says, obviously we had some stupid idea about sacrificing her to Satan. But Jacob says, yes, we wanted to sacrifice her. But in the end, the reason it was Elyse is because Joseph was obsessed with her and he was obsessed with killing her. Like, he couldn't let it go. So it really came down more to this kid's weird obsession with her. Right.
Yeah.
And they also said that they were listening to Slayer a lot at the time, and that Joseph was taking the lyrics from the songs Postmortem and Dead Skin Mask and making it like taking those like lyrics literally, basically, and saying like, we're gonna fucking kill this girl. And Royce also said that there's another Slayer song that's like, if you're not with us, like, you're gonna disappear or something, or like you're against us. Basically, if you're not with us, you're against us. And so as he was starting to change his life, that's why he was afraid these guys were going to kill him, because they're like, you're no longer with us, so we have to handle you. Right. Yeah. So pretty fucking gnarly. These kids all plead no contest. Please remember they were all big time minors at the time. Yeah. But this is real fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Real disgusting. Like necrophilia, torture, murder.
Bundy level.
Yeah. Bundy level shit for all these kids under 18. They strike a plea deal, and so a lot of the case files and things never were released because there was no reason for them to be. Yeah. So we don't have a lot of information, but they all got 26 years to life.
Okay.
And so they do have possibility of parole, and the family seemed pretty okay with that. They, they're pretty destroyed. The family ended up on welfare because neither of the parents could work. They were both so destroyed by what happened. Gosh. And remember, they have 3 other kids.
Yeah.
So they are just completely falling apart. So they end up on like government assistance. They're just like, they can't keep their shit together. Her dad actually ended up in a road rage incident because he has like PTSD.
Yeah, just misplaced anger.
It really is. And that's a lot of misplaced anger. So the family decided, the boys were listening to Slayer. Let's sue Slayer for incitement. We're going to sue them for inciting these boys to kill our daughter.
No.
The first judge threw the case out and like talked shit to them. He was basically like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And listen, I get it. You're upset. You're hurt. Obviously, these people's lives are destroyed. But like, knock it the fuck off. Like, they didn't incite shit. Literally millions of people listen to them and don't do this.
No, and it's fucking poetic. It's fucking song lyrics. It's not instructions. Like,
right. Right. It's ridiculous. So
something was going on with these kids that they took it a certain way, but it's not on the ban.
This thing. It could have been
the same thing happened with like violent video games after Columbine, and that shit was so tired. Like, oh my gosh.
Please. I mean, look, I don't like the way that our society normalizes violence in general, but to specifically attempt to blame one artist or one song and Slayer came out and they're like, this is ridiculous. This has nothing to do with us. If these kids want to do something this stupid and awful, they should be punished, but like, leave us the fuck out of it. Yeah. It's essentially what they said. And I agree. So the kids from prison, Joseph has not really been very cooperative or given a lot of interviews. And part of the rash of violence, his older brother murdered a 15-year-old like not long before this.
Oh man. So
yeah,
there's a lot going on.
So Joseph's mother came forward and was like blaming the city. Like, I asked for social services to get involved. I told them I could no longer keep control of my sons and I needed help, and they fucking ignored me, and now look what happened. So this whole thing's a big fucking mess. Negligence. These people don't have the services they need.
There's lots of people to blame, but it's not Slayer.
Right. Exactly. It's like, blame the city, blame the cops, blame social services, blame the people who actually are involved.
Blame their parents even, potentially. Yeah.
So 2021 rolls around, right? So it was 1995. We're now in 2021. We're at about the 26-year mark, right? And Royce is granted parole.
Oof,
Other two boys are not, but Royce is for a number of reasons. One, they probably would have never solved the case without him. He came forward.
Oh, yeah. He was the one to flip. Yeah.
Yes. Two, he had already turned his life around before he was arrested. Three, while in prison, he continued his religious path, has been
on the good track.
Other prisoners, has a spotless criminal record, and has expressed actual remorse. Like when he is talking about it, he takes full responsibility. Like, I cannot imagine the pain she felt while I was murdering her. Like the things, that I did to her that caused her death. Like very much taking ownership, very much showing remorse. So in 2021, he's granted parole, and her family, Elyse's family, actually was like, we're not stoked, but we're like not actively against him being paroled. The other two kids, they're
power to them for actually having that mindset, because not a lot of people do.
The other two kids, they're like, we'll fight till our last dying breath to keep them in prison as long as possible.
Your fucking attitude matters. The remorse matters.
Right. And the fact that he came forward, like, I think that they feel like he could actually re-enter society and not be a bad person.
Yeah.
However, Gavin Newsom overturned the parole, saying the exact same thing he says to every single person when he overturns their parole: you need to find a deeper understanding. And it's like, go fuck yourself. A deeper understanding. Like, I swear to God, he probably just has a rubber stamp. He does that on a piece of paper.
Yeah, he's very I almost said I don't want to get too political, but like, it's us. But he's very this is the governor of California, if you don't know, but he's very, very conservative when it comes to that issue of like criminal justice, and loves to make sure people. We just talked about Leslie Van Houten last week.
Yeah,
he loves to make sure people stay behind bars. And I think especially with well-known cases, it's just like a PR thing. It
is. And it's a very neoliberal agenda to have. Like, we're tough on crime because we want to keep our white citizens safe. And it's stupid. In any case, a judge, then went back to a judge, and the judge was like, that's cute, Newsom. We are paroling this man. So they granted him parole as of June of this year.
Incredible.
So he'll be getting released soon. The other two have not been granted parole at this point. But like I said, the family is not supportive of his parole, but they are not averse to it. They're just
of the three, this is the one that they're most okay with.
Yeah, they're like, that's totally fine. So that's kind of where that's at this point. Nothing obviously happened with Slayer. They basically were like, that's cute, fuck off. But it's very, very sad that this happened. I mean, I feel like this is the type of thing that happens to teenagers. All teenagers do this. They all rebel. They all find like totally friends that they shouldn't hang out with, and she just got very, very unlucky. And it's a fucking shitty ass case. So
really shitty.
There it is.
Wow. That's horrible. But Slayer is awesome.
Yeah. So to just jump into next week, because I said this ties in.
Yes.
I'm picking for next week, and I am choosing, this is actually a listener request.
And it was separately on our list of lists for as well. So it was like a synchronicity.
So it was perfect. This is horror movies inspired by real cases, like real. So
we're going to do the case, and I'll talk about the movie, compare.
Exactly.
I think we should do some movie watching probably as our homework.
Oh yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah. I'm excited.
So this is another Halloween themed kind of situation.
And I'm like a horror movie fanatic, as I've said many times on the show.
Yes. So I love them as well, but not like you do. But yeah, so we're going to do that. That's our next topic. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
That's it. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody. It's September, so it's time to start saying that. Don't forget.
My evil clown is out in front of my house now, so I'm ready. I'm there.
I'm really hoping Rory gets shit together. We have a bat outside already, but we need this weekend has to be the weekend. It's getting
Amp
late.
It up.
Getting late in the year. We got to do it.
Yeah. One of my coworkers tried to give me it's only September talk, and I was like, oh no.
Fuck out of here with that shit.
You don't understand.
No.
It's fully Halloween.
You mean it's already September? Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate you. We love you. Thanks to all our new patrons. I'll get those stickers out to you soon.
Yeah.
And until next week,
stay
off our